Welcome, my friends, to the podcast that never ends, where we gather our clan and talk about peace and love in our lives, the difficulties along the journey, and how we rise up. We will experience a little thing I call Kluberty together, find our sweet spot, and planting our seeds to watch them grow in our magic garden. I'm Uncle Dave, and our transformation starts right here. Hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Today's guest, man, not only is he an active soldier, he's an active duty. He has an incredible story. I can't wait to talk to him about all the things that he's done, and he knows the value of stories, man. We know we love stories here, and the story of resilience and moving forward. So I can't wait to introduce to my new friend Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking, and I'm so privileged to be here on your show.
Okay, well, first, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I've never served. I was born on an Air Force base. My dad was in the
Oh,
service, and but I always love paying back. A lot of the work I do, I support veterans and active duty. Because the things that you're dealing with, we don't even want to know about.
yeah, I got you, and thank you so much for your support.
Well, you're welcome. So let's get to know you a little bit. I knew you grew up in Miami, and I remember
Hmm.
Miami, man. I'm old enough to know old time Miami. Miami's changed now. Why don't you tell
Hmm.
us a little bit about yourself and some of the story of you?
Oh man, so like you said, I grew up in Miami. Growing up in Miami back in the 90s was a different Miami. Now it's all about crypto and partying. But I mean, it was kind of like it was. I guess it was partying back then, but it was more like it was more of the hustle, the grind. You know, Miami was international, but it was still a grind city. And so I learned a lot being in Miami, being in the quote unquote hood, ghetto, whatever. You learn how to survive. You don't really learn how to thrive too much. So that's why I wanted better for myself. And thank goodness I had a mom and dad who worked extremely hard to try to keep me out of trouble. But of course, when you're in
Right.
a
Everybody
neighborhood,
around you, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's the people you surround yourself, or you have nobody else, right? You didn't.
yeah,
There
yeah,
were a lot of resources.
yeah,
Everybody was sort of in that same thing.
yeah. Yeah, if you wasn't gang banging, if you wasn't like selling something, like selling weed, you was looked at as a lame-o. So even in elementary school, it was just like that. Like the people who were selling the drugs, dealing the drugs, and stuff like that was seen as quote unquote superstars. And not nowadays. It's kind of different. It changed a lot. And I'm not, I guess, sensationalizing that culture or anything. But what I know for just me growing up, a lot of times the what they quote unquote dope dealers or drug dealers, they kind of looked after you like uh, they told you not to go into that lifestyle. Hey, if they see you doing something, they be like, hey, get yourself home, and they will take you to your mom and be like, hey, Mrs. Yearby or Mr. Yearby, I seen your son out here doing this, and throw me, to my parents. So you didn't, like
Yeah,
that
you
was
had
like
nowhere
the
to hide.
yeah, that was the type of mentality. So they didn't want that for you. So they wanted you to, I guess, keep a childhood and some innocence. So, but as you growing up, you want more for yourself. And I wanted to get out of Miami. I wanted to see what the world had to offer me. So joined the military. And the first base I ended up going to was it's a base in Minot, North Dakota. It's really, really cold. And when I say it was a small town, it was roughly, when I was there, it was around 10,000 people. So going from a big metropolitan area like Miami to a small city, it was shocking. And it was cold. It was like -70. So
Yeah. Going from Miami to even New York is a lot of shock for people.
yeah,
North
a hundred
Dakota,
percent.
where in the winters it was negative whatever, and you said
Yeah.
70. That's a completely different world, man. Talk about
Yeah.
culture shock.
Oh my good.
That's biological shock.
Oh, boy, you ain't crazy. So I actually like when I was there at my first place, I was thinking about getting out of the military, and I was like, I'm getting out of here because you hear a lot of negative things. They like, oh, once you at Minot, you stay at Minot. And I had a great supervisor. He came. He was like, his name was Prentice. At that time tech sergeant Princess Coleman, and he was like, "Hey, fool, don't be crazy." He said, put in for orders." He said, "Don't listen to what they say. Put in for orders." He said, "You'll get them." He said, "I came from England, so how did I get here?" He said, "I'm getting orders. I'm gonna get out of here." And I was like, "Okay, whatever, sir." So I
Yeah.
put in for orders. I ended up getting Okinawa, Japan.
Hmm.
And that was like, I was like, okay, I'm going to Okinawa, I'm going to Japan. And I stayed there for 7 years. So, and learned the language as best as possible. And that's where I met my ex in Japan.
Well, how was it? So I know I've been to Guam. So,
Yeah.
and in Guam, it's like being in Japan. I mean,
Yeah.
when I landed, I was there doing some business and some speaking, and
Hmm.
everything is in Japanese.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though it's a U.S. territory,
Yeah.
they don't care. I mean, there are some English things, but even
Yeah.
the menus. I went to Hard Rock Cafe, and and I'm like looking at the menu, and most of it's in Japanese. Thank God I knew where I was going and what I was getting. But
Yeah.
how did you adjust? Because it's not even using the same letters, right? Everything becomes different. How did you do that? I mean, that's awesome.
So the first thing I did is get lost. I was told when I first got there, my sponsor was like, "Hey, you want to do this, that, and the third," but he said, "Hey, be honest, just go get lost." So I was a young senior airman. I got my first car. I ended up buying a vehicle that was there, just like, just something to get me by, nothing too crazy. And then from there, I just went and got lost. And so in Japan, they do, I guess, well, at that time, they didn't really like cater to Americans too much. So you had to learn Japanese. And then also with the symbols, the katakana, hiragana, and kanji. So kanji, most Asian countries use kanji is like more universal. But then like kanji, katakana, and hiragana is for Japanese. So I think it's hiragana that is like it breaks down words that are foreign words
Mhm.
because they really don't have any meaning, and then katakana is like traditional Japanese how they talk, how but written in the language. So I learned a lot of katakana, and I learned a lot of Japanese, but the bad words.
We always learn the bad words first, no matter what.
Learned a bad word, and I learned a lot of slang, right? And so my ex taught me, but when I was around the Japanese men, it was like Mike son, no, 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 you do not talk like that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, and so they taught me like I learned about proper dialect, the traditional, the male and female way of saying certain things. And so I was like, oh, okay, okay, okay. And so I spoke pretty fluent after 2.5 years, 3 years I was there. I actually spoke Japanese pretty well. And then you know how they say if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I haven't spoke Japanese to anybody probably I want to say 10 years, 10 maybe
Wow.
more, 10 to 14 years. So you can start speaking Japanese to me, I can pick something up, but it's
Well,
like
so I'll tell you, it picks up a little bit. I mean, it's not great. And how I know is, high school and like a little college, I took Spanish. And then
yep,
I worked at a job for 30 years, no Spanish. Past 2 years,
yep,
I've been working at this manufacturing company where there's a lot of Spanish speaking employees. And they're
yeah,
always amazed when I know, and I just go, un poco, just a little. And, but I pick up, and they're also very, they admire that you
yeah,
try to speak in their language, and we have a little broken Spanish English to communicate. So I bet you it would pick up, but it's not a strength, right? We have to work on our strengths to continue to go on. Now, I heard you say something because I didn't ask which branch of the military. I heard you say you were an airman.
Oh yeah. So Air Force,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yes, sir. So, did you go to basic training in San Antonio in at
Ye-
Lackland?
Yes, I did.
That's where I was born. That was where
Oh,
my
okay. Heck yeah.
yeah, my dad. So I've never been back to Lackland. I've been to San Antonio, uh, but yeah, it was either that or Mexico. My dad was in the
Yeah.
Air Force. Yeah, he was getting out of the Air Force at that time, and they knew they were pregnant. And obviously, I was about to
Yeah.
be born, and they were like, "Let's go for a ride. It's a short trip,
Yeah.
or to Mexico." And my mother was like, "I don't feel so right," and they didn't go. So
Yeah.
I could have been Mexican in some ways. But yeah, so yeah, Lackland. Shout out to Lackland and
Yeah.
all the people in active duty there as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, so after Okinawa, where
Yeah.
well let's take a before we start running your world tour.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do? In the military, because I know you're talking about it, but you're into organizational management. I mean, you're
Mhm.
into
Mhm.
structure, but while that's got to be interesting, how you got there.
Yeah. So long story short, I am a what they call an aerospace propulsion engineer. That is a long job title just to say I'm an engine mechanic. That's all. So I work on different aircraft engines. It's a specialty, so I specialize. So I work on. I have worked on the F-16. I worked on the KC-135. I worked on the E-3 AWACS. I worked on the B-52 bomber. I worked on the A-10 engines, and then I worked all the engines and then those aircrafts as well. So I specialize in basically engine mechanics. And so when you doing a lot of stuff like that, especially if it's the flight line, we broken up. We have what we call flight line operations, where you actually go out and you do like they call two-level maintenance, and then you have your back shop where you do all three-level maintenance, where you can really tear down the engine and break into it and really understand. And that's another level. And then also you have your what we call phase operations, where we bring the aircraft in. We do a little engine work here and there, but it's mostly about doing detailed inspections of the aircraft, making sure the aircraft is good to go so that we can repanel it, get everything that's fixed that needs to be fixed, and get it back in the air so it can be serviceable for another 300 or 400, depending on the aircraft, hours of flight. And so that's kind of like how maintenance is broken up into those kind of like three phases.
Hmm.
So with those phases, you need to have a lot of organizational management because we run each phase you run on a script. Except I would say the flight line is more like you just all you're doing is like patch and repair. The aircraft flies, it has some damage here and there. You fix it as best you can, and you get the aircraft in the air again. When it comes to phase, it's more intensive inspections. You do a lot of uh, taking all the engines off, do a lot of detailed, deep inspections, and then for engine troops, when we have a back shop, we work primarily just on the engines, and we do full tear down and depot maintenance, where we break into the whole engine, tear it up into modules, different pieces, and then put it all back together. And so
Well,
it's a
that
yes,
okay. So
yeah,
there's a little selfish piece of this that right now. This my
yeah,
nephew is graduating high school. He's trying to get into the military. He's taking all the tests and
yeah.
he's waiting for results from the Navy as well as the Air Force. Because he
Hmm.
wanted to kind of follow in my father's footsteps. How did
Yeah.
you get into airplane mechanics? Like, was that something that you just knew you wanted to do, or was it something that you had the right opportunity in, when you joined the military?
So when you take your ASVAB test, you it's basically it's general, and then also they see what type of mechanics and stuff you have, and it goes from 1 to 100. Well, I scored really good. I think I scored around the 60s or 70s, right? So it gave me a plethora of options, and when you go to what they call MEPS, you get a listing. You can a listing of like I think it was 6 jobs you could choose, and so I only put one. because they were like, pick, the six, because if you don't get your first one, they go through the six, and then they try to, they try to match you with, what you can do. So I was like, okay. And I said, I'm not putting down anything else in my, and he looked at me, I'm like, I'm putting down, all I want to be is an aircraft engine mechanic. Like I, because it sounded so cool. It sounded like I was going to be an engineer. So I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, I want this. I said, I'm not joining if I don't get that. And he looked at me. He's like, well, you got to put down something else. I said, I will not put down anything else. And then I got up and he was upset. But, I was in the military. I was a,
Right, right. It was
you know,
before you made that commitment. Yeah,
yeah, I was a 17-year-old kid. You ain't telling me nothing. Like, I don't care if you upset.
yeah.
Like, I just got up and walked away. So a month later, I got called. They said, yeah, you got your job. You got your pick. I'm like, hey, you better get that or nothing.
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah. You know,
yeah. So I was 17. I was already graduated, and I was 17 years old. And so I actually had, my parents had sign a
at
waiver for
19.
me. And so they put me in what they call the delayed enlistment program,
Hmm.
and this was before 9/11 happened. So I joined in August, and I was going to ship out in November 27th of 2001. And
Oh,
then what happened was is September 11th happened, and I thought it was going to push me back, but it didn't. It was just so much that was going on, especially with the military. It was like all eyes with our country and everything that was
right.
happening. So it was like it was crazy. Like security was like to its max, especially at Lackland. It was like crazy. So
So how was I guess how I didn't even think of that. How was being in the military? Starting your career
mhm.
not because of 2000, 9/11, but during 9/11, right? Because our
Yeah.
country's eyes definitely shifted differently. We looked at our military differently. How did that experience change you?
Oh man, it made me want. It was something bigger than myself. So when I got to my first base at Minot, you work on B-52s, which is a nuclear platform aircraft that has a lot of conventional weaponry that can just be armed up. So the primary of a B-52 bomber is the bomb, and so when the war kicked off, we took 9 B-52s from Minot to Fairford, England, right? And the aircraft went. And then I remember this was my first deployment, and they was like, "Hey, you can't leave. You can't be more than 2 hours away from base." And so they're like, "Hey, once we had our go bags and everything ready, and they said once you get the call, you need to come in." And so I was kind of it didn't become real to me until at the time I had my girlfriend. I was there just sitting on the couch with her, and then I got the call and like, "Hey, you need to get back on base within like 30 minutes." So I had my bags packed. I grabbed them. She was crying. She gave me a hug and everything like that. And then I said goodbye. And I went back to base. And then a couple of hours later, a C5 came out of the sky on our flight line, and we all processed through a processing line real quick. I made a wheel, everything right there. And my orders, this is when it kind of kicked in. It became surreal to me
Mhm.
when they gave me my copy of my orders. My orders had no return date.
Ooh,
It just had the
we're sending
the
you.
day I'm leaving and no return date on it. So I'm like, oh man, this is real.
Right.
And
And that's when it
and then
started to get real, right? That's
yeah,
when we started, Afghanistan and all that stuff, that time frame.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
So yeah.
yeah, so were you ever in the war zone?
Yes, I was
Yeah.
at Kyrgyzstan.
Oh,
I
okay.
was
Yeah.
in Kyrgyzstan.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I deployed multiple times. Some great places, and then some not so great places. Like in Kyrgyzstan, Kyrgyzstan was the only base that had a Russian air base at, I think it was I want to say the western part, and then on the eastern part of the country was our base. That was Manas
Mm.
uh, Air Base, and it was the only country that had a Russian air base on one part of the country and an American base or an Allied base on the other side of the country. And so that was a highly contested area. So I was flying in on a KC-135, and routinely it gets shot at, by just different forces as it does this fly through. And so, you know,
Yeah,
the base got locked down multiple times. In the deployment environment, it's pretty different. You pretty much get a routine. Like you have to have a gym routine or something because you're working 6 days a week, and usually on your day off, all you want to do is sleep.
sure. Yeah, because you're working, and it's not just working. It's also
Yeah,
being on heightened alert, right? You're not part of the challenge is not only, hey, I'm doing a job 9 to 5, or whatever the hours are at times, much more than 9 to 5,
yeah,
but it's also being under the threat of where you're at.
yeah,
But while you're all doing this, right? So you're doing all these things, like you got on,
yeah,
bop, bop, you got a master's degree through this career also. I mean,
yeah.
like, you know, how incredible are you? You come from Miami, and I remember I at that time in the mid '90s to late '90s, I was working at a law firm as a paralegal. We'd go to Miami for
Mhm.
trials, and they would tell you stay at the Intercontinental, because then you're right there. Four
Yeah,
blocks is like the courthouse, but don't really go out much. You could go to South Beach, South
yeah,
Beach,
yeah,
down the strip, down Ocean Drive. That's about
yeah,
it. Don't go
yeah,
all too far off in South Beach, but we did, and
yeah,
but that's the environment you came from, and then
yeah,
now where you are, and then you got out of 9/11 happened, your
yeah,
world changed, and because
yeah,
you were in the military, that changed, but you still found time to push yourself, and
yeah,
that's really what I want to hear, is not only that you just did a job, which is an incredible job. I mean,
yeah,
when my nephew talks about his desire to be an airplane mechanic, and I love to hear it, and I love to hear how you explained it, the detail,
yeah,
and I can't imagine. I never thought of that. I almost joined the military, and then my
yeah,
dad was like, "No, you're not," because
yeah, yeah,
because of his experience, but also
yeah, a
I
hundred
had two
percent.
grandparents. Both my grandfathers were in World War II, and they came home differently than they
Uh-huh.
went in. The experiences that they had definitely changed them, and I'm sure the differences of who you are, well, definitely as a 17-year-old and now as an older gentleman,
Yeah.
um, has changed you, but the world has changed as well. So
Mhm.
how did you pivot to, did you know at a 17-year-old that you'd like to learn about organizational management? That org
So no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So all the stuff with organizational management and just getting a degree, honestly, to be honest, the one of the reasons I wanted to join the military is because for me, I didn't think I had the chops for education.
Mhm.
And so I thought I was just a dumb, turn the wrench guy. That's all. And I had a good wife. My wife now that I have, I had I want to say coming to Jesus talk with her, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Because I'm at the end of my career, getting to really I was getting close, but not as close as I am now. And I was like, I don't have anything to fall back on. And then I basically told her like, hey, I wanted to get my degree, but I feel like I'm dumb, stupid. I don't have the educational chops to do it. And she was like, "No, not the man I married." And man, so long story, I broke down. She's like, "I'll take a class with you if I have to. Just take one at a time." And so I didn't even have my associate's degree at all. So I was like, through the military service, I was like maybe no, I was 5 classes away from getting my associates
Mm.
because all my military experience, I could have used that to help with my associates. So I only had 5 classes. So I was like, okay, I'll just take one at a time. And so I took one at a time. Bam. Okay. I got that done. I'm like, wow, I got that done. Wow. I got it done within like, a couple of months, like 7 months. I took it real slow. I'm like, man. And so the top of the year, I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to school. I got encouraged to, hey, try to get your bachelor's. And so I'm like, let me see how many credits is going to transfer. And he's like, I went to the University of Arizona Global Campus, and he was like, well, um, your full credits don't transfer. It was 53 credits that transferred. so not the full 60, right? So I was like, oh my goodness. And he's like, well, you know, if you want to, you can, still take the classes to make it up. So I was like, okay. So I started taking one, and then they was like, hey, do you want to take any more? And I was like, yeah. I said, can I double up on classes? They told me yes. And so, and I was getting it. It was just like flowing for me, right? And then also with understanding business structure, I'm seeing how the Air Force works, right? It works like a business and everything that works in that, right? And so I just started like connecting the dots and what I was using, what I was learning in the degree program. I finished all my bachelor's within a year and a half. And then from there, I started my master's degree, and I was like, okay, I want to get up. I was going to do an MBA, but I said no, I'm going to do it in organizational management because I can connect to what I'm doing here at my
Mm.
current rank. So I was like, okay, and then it's going to help me be a better leader, right? And man, I ran through that my master's degree program. It took me like 9 months to go through that because I was going so fast that
Yeah,
they
that
told me,
these are crazy, timelines. When you're telling me, yeah,
yeah,
like that's some crazy work, plus working a full-time job with the responsibility that you were getting. And while you first started doing some things, you
yeah,
moved up. I mean, you're currently right now, sir, you're a master sergeant.
yeah,
That's not a position where, you just walk in, do. Like
yeah.
there's a lot of responsibility there, sir.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. 12-hour days almost every day. So, and it's just like that. So, I had a wife that lets me, she understood I had work. And she's prior military as well. So she was very, very understanding. She knew I had to work late. And so what I ended up starting to do is like, I was like, hey, my resilience was going down, like my mental framework. So I was like, okay, I really need to get into the gym. So what I said, hey, I'm not gonna get one time out. So I made sure the regimen was like I get home around 6. I will do schoolwork from like 6 to 8:30, sometimes 9. I'll eat dinner. We eat dinner. We
Yep.
talk for like 20, 30 minutes together. And then I go to sleep around 9:30, sometimes 10, wake up around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then go to the gym to like 5. And then I start my day just like that. And I did it for 2.5 years, almost 3 years straight before now I had to, because I PCS to a different, now I'm in South Korea now. So it messed up everything for me. Because I'm doing a new job as well. But yeah, that helped me stay very focused and locked in to what I
Sure.
needed to do. Yeah.
You didn't have a lot of wiggle room. That's the thing. People who, work and go and, with 12-hour days and all the other
Yeah.
responsibilities and living a life. Like,
Yeah.
it's really difficult to do that. So
Yeah.
How is South Korea? And what I mean by that, right, the Korea conflict has really kind of come up a lot. Not only
Yeah.
the past Korea conflict, but now we have like a different relationship than we had
Yeah.
uh, even 10 years ago with Korea.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed a little bit, but mostly it's still the same. Korea is very high pace, because we got to move like this consistently. We're always doing exercises and different things of that nature. I mean, just, the workload and the visibility, because you're so close to the DMZ of North Korea, so everything we do is always on alert. We always treat everything. We stay tempered for the mission at all times. And then so it's like, my job now. I'm like, I didn't. I knew it was going to be important, right? But I didn't know how important it was going to be. Because right now I'm the superintendent for all the housing on base.
Oh, wow.
So I control everyone that comes in. So everybody comes in on base. They have to run through my office first to get a room. So we make sure we hospital. It's basically, a big. The base is, if you want to treat the base like a big hotel, because everybody has to be on base. So everybody runs through me. So
That's
that's
incredible. I
yeah,
just thought of it. I know somebody who ran through your uh, through your base.
Yeah,
Just thinking about it, I have a friend whose daughter and son-in-law ran through the base because
yeah,
they brought home the dog. They had they picked up a dog and
yeah.
and brought her home back to the
Yeah.
States. But yeah, that's incredible. You don't even think about those things. Who's in charge, and I guess that's where that organizational management
It does.
came
Oh my
in. And
goodness.
yep,
It comes into play so much
yeah,
every
wow.
day.
Yeah, I mean, so that 17-year-old kid, what would you say back right now to that 17-year-old kid? Which I have to say at 17, just to say, hey, no, man, this is what I want to do versus any of the other options.
Yeah.
What would you say to that kid now?
Hey, lock in because you're gonna have a fun, chaotic, and sometimes probably very intense ride. If you know, and it's gonna have its good times, bad times, and indifferent times, but it's gonna be your life, and you're gonna love every minute
Okay, now I know we've kind of gone through like a high level, right? It's a
of it.
Facebook type of conversation right now, but
Yeah, yeah,
you've rebuilt yourself from some real lows as well. And
yeah,
I don't want anybody to be like, oh yeah, it all worked out all right, man.
yeah,
It has worked out, but that's one of the real messages is that if you keep working at it, it will. Could you tell us some
yeah.
of those less good moments that led you to the knowledge that brought you to where you are today?
Oh yeah. So through my infamous career, you had your ups and downs. You had your people who I give you I guess segments. So
Yep.
in mine, for example, I was the only black guy in the shop for a good 2.5 years. So, and everybody else was from like rural country areas, right, in middle America. And I was the only person that came from like a metropolitan city, that was more international. So, a lot of things they said and I said was totally clashing and different. And they saw me a lot of times where I was just, I was very respectful, but at the same time, I was a snot nosed little kid. And
Right.
so they put me
17.
in my place a lot, right? And sometimes, which is good, which is not bad, but also there were some people that tried to make the Air Force experience more about race
Mm,
than what it needed to be about content of character.
mm,
So I dealt with that. And then also, like I said, my ex-wife in Japan, she was a wildfire. Just like every marriage you go through, you have your ups and downs and differences. I would say one big thing, I got her pregnant really fast because it was off the hills. Because just a quick anecdote, I went back home before I went to Okinawa. So I got the orders to Okinawa. I did my training and everything, and I went back home for 30 days on leave to see all my friends and everybody. And that kind of turned out tragic because my best friend, we was caught in a drive-by.
Oh, wow.
We was gonna go to South Beach one night, and we got caught in a drive-by right around the street from my house. And someone was, I guess, I'm not sure if they was after him or after the other guys that we were with, but we got caught in a drive-by, and he didn't survive. And so before I went to Okinawa, I buried my best friend, and that was like my mental mind state was like gone for a good year or so. So then I ended up meeting my now ex-wife at the time, and I was looking for happiness in the wrong places with her. And then even though she wasn't, man, honestly, we built somewhat of a good life. We have three wonderful kids together. Uh, so I never take that back. But we was just, when I say totally wrong for each other, and we was trying to stitch it together and make it work. It was terrible. From her stealing from her job and putting credit cards in my name to us eventually getting a divorce because she decided that she was going to cheat on me.
Mm.
And I mean, yeah. So I mean, I'm telling you,
Right.
it's a
It's
lot.
not just one thing, and
Yeah,
there's lots of signs once you
oh,
look about it now, and then you're like, oh man.
100%.
Now, was she
Yeah.
in the military as well, or was
No, she
she?
was a foreign national. She was half Japanese and half of.
Oh, okay, so she was living in Okinawa, and that's where you met.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And she spoke English very well. And then just
Then you figure it
different
out.
things.
Whatever you don't know,
Yeah,
you figure it out.
100%, man. And so I learned a lot about what family looks like, what love looks like, especially for me. Like as a man, I always taught when it comes to marriage with my father. You know, you stick it out, right? You stick it out, you
Yep.
stay strong. But then when I found out, you know, I was trying to stick it out, stay strong. And then when she told me she cheated on me, I didn't feel,
Right.
and that's the first time I ever explored what happiness is. Like more it's more like, I'm not sure how it is for you, but most men, it's like we're more obligated, to duty. Like we have a duty towards our family. We love our family and stuff like that. So we're not really as emotional. We're not like, when we get to take care of our family, it's more like peace, right? It's not like a feeling. It's just like the peace is like, it's something that you're a part of. And then for me, when I was going through that, I never had to explore what happiness is. Like, am I really happy in this relationship? Am I happy to try to come home and work it out with someone who clearly doesn't want to be with me? Like stuff like that. I had to really wrestle with, and it messed me up for a good, I want to say 2.5, 3 years, where,
Sure.
man, like emotionally, I was a wreck. I was drinking, probably. I was doing, working out. I was trying to work out,
Like you're
get
trying to
with
find,
women.
you're trying to fill that
Yeah,
hole,
yeah,
and again, I've been there as well. Been married
yeah,
and had infidelity jump in,
yeah.
and that hits you, man.
Oh,
I don't want to take that lightly. A lot of people just go, "Oh, you just get over it." You don't get over it so easily,
yeah,
and even in future relationships, you know, it plays a little bit in your mind. So
yeah, it
getting out
does.
of that is really difficult.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Because
And,
and the big thing I struggle with is like, am I not good enough for you?
yep.
Like, like,
Yeah, you start questioning your
I'm,
worth.
yeah,
And there's so much.
yeah.
So your children, are they based in Okinawa or are they?
So no, so there, we was in Kansas when all this happened,
Oh,
and it
okay,
was my first trip. So this is my second time in Korea. So what happened is I was based in Kansas. I had orders to come to Korea for by myself. I couldn't bring my family for a year, and then
right.
from there I was projected to go to Germany, and then I was gonna bring my family to Germany. And we was gonna, after my year here, I was gonna go back, get them, and then we was all gonna go together. But what happened was is that she told me when I was here that, she was,
Yep.
the
Yeah, you weren't
whatever.
here
And
and blah 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 blah
yeah,
blah. Yeah.
yeah. And so I had to make a decision. Do I try to work on a relationship in Germany? Do I take a chance to bring her to Germany and deal with, that in and around our kids, or do I leave her where she is and, go to Germany and see what I need to do for myself? And so I was talking to my leadership team, and basically they told me like, hey, you do not want to bring, if you're struggling right now, and if you're on the fence, you do not want to bring her to another foreign country where you have responsibilities to the Air Force, and then you have your family life that's, going crazy and tumultuous. With, at that time we had 3 kids together. She had 2 from her previous marriage, so we had 5 kids in the home.
Oh,
So yeah, so it was a big family. So I had to make a decision: do I just keep them there? That way, I don't, like for
right.
my
Try to
mental health and
stabilize the
then everything.
kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to see me and their mother fighting. Like, oh, I just,
Yeah.
it was a lot that I had a short amount of time
Sure.
to make this decision. So I, how I'm gonna move, and I, I, I didn't have. There was really no good option. It was all,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a lot of times what life is there isn't
yeah,
any good options. It's you make the best decision at the time, and it might work out or it might not, depending on. But you have to put yourself in that position, like, hey, I made the right decision. When
yeah,
life's thrown at you, you maybe had some wiggle room, but the Air Force wasn't going to be like, hey, man, I'm going through some stuff. I got to take a couple of days off. Yeah, you got like one day. Great. All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
we still need you in Germany. So either you
yeah,
do your job or you don't. And you know, there's a lot of responsibility to that that we carry on in our own lives and having to focus. How do we do that for our kids, but also to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best position as well?
Yeah. No, you're right. And that was one of the biggest things I dealt with because I dealt with like I knew I wasn't there was no good decision and still had to make the decision. But then also you have to live with those consequences. And it ate at me with those consequences because of course she was upset. She was mad that I didn't forgive her and I wouldn't forgive her and I wouldn't take her to Germany. So of course she made me pay, where, she, he
Yeah,
talked about
yeah,
me.
yeah. A lot of people, right?
Oh
How they take care of it, but and that make you pay is sometimes using the kids as things, and I understand that.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, it was a leverage too. Yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, we struggle with that.
yeah, it's definitely a tough thing, but you also have lived a life of grace in the sense that,
Yeah.
even back in Miami when you were saying people were looking out for you to
Yeah.
kind of, what is the value of a great mentor? Like now we're at that age,
Yeah.
right? Now you're the
Yeah.
mentor, but
Yeah.
what were the great mentors in your life that helped you bring yourself to right here?
Oh man. I would say priceless. From like Sergeant Prentice Coleman, who helped me when I was in Minot, to Master Sergeant Wilson, that helped me when I was first time in here in Korea, while I was going through what I was going through, to my ex-wife, because I met my ex-wife here in Korea when I was going through what I was going through. My wife now, because like I said, I used to go to the gym a lot, and one time she saw me, I was not in a good place, man. I was
Sure.
contemplating a lot of bad stuff. And she's like, "Is everything okay?" And I just broke down crying. And she took me to church. I talked to a chaplain. I talked to multiple chaplains at the time. We had three of them. And I can't remember their names at the moment, but man, they sat with me, man, and man, prayed with me. Jeez Louise, man, it was a lot. Mentorship is so important because honestly, man, this life, me personally, I feel like this life is not to. You're not meant to do it alone. You're supposed to do it together with good people, and having someone who that you can lean on and talk to, and share your pain with, just maybe in small increments, is everything.
100%. I agree with that. So now, okay, so now you're the old man on base.
Yeah, the
And
elder statesman.
yeah, yeah, but so in terms of what type of mentorship do you give? Not to necessarily specific people, but
Yeah,
how do you pass it on? I mean, it really is weird. I
yeah,
remember that there was a gentleman who was older than I was. I was a big bowler. I was a big brash, big mouth little kid. And he said, man, when you get out of high school, life blinks by. And he gave me some good advice. And I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. Now I'm at the age or close to the age of where he was at. And I'm like, mother, like, man, that was some real good advice. And I now share it. What's some
yeah.
advice that you give and you share?
Oh, so honestly, I do more of shutting the hell up and just let
Hmm.
them talk. So I let them talk and get out their frustrations when we're just talking about anything, right? And then I kind of like what I do is like I listen to what they say and then I say, hey, I like what you said there, but and I like, hey, you said this word here, and this word is a word of defeat. You're not defeated. I said, now you're down, but you're not defeated.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have, so don't even portray that mentality. And then I start going into, just basically giving them some like words of wisdom and affirmation to get them thinking about it. And then I'm like, I'm not trying to preach to you or anything, guys, but I'm just trying to give you some words of wisdom to help you reframe how how you're digging yourself down so bad.
Well, because you've been there, and so word of man of not a lot of words, and
Yeah,
but impactful.
yeah,
How did you learn some of that? Some of that is life experience, and that blend. That's why I love
yeah,
talking about mentorship versus
yeah.
coaching or things like. mentorship is, hey man, do what you want. It's your
Yeah.
life. But from my experience, I've learned X, Y, Z, and however you want to apply it, great. How do you do that?
I do it I'm in a few words, but I do talk, but I do it through action. I say something and I do it. I have a lot of follow through. I try to stay very consistent, and then I found that people start coming to you when they see you. They think you got it all together, and I'm like, hey man, I'm just like you, man. I have my struggles. I have every struggles here and there. I said the thing is that right now, I said, right now you are, how I explain it's I'm not sure if you ever did any tempering with metal or anything of that nature when you're creating a sword or anything like that. I said, right now y'all in the cold, y'all in the fire. Y'all, the coal is hot and the iron is hot. I said, what you see right now and what you like is a refinement process that I've been through, where I've been hammered out. And they struck me through the water. They put me back in the coals. They hit me out some more. And what you see right now is a refinement process, of calmness. So not saying I don't get stress tests,
Right.
but what I do understand is that this too shall pass. And so that's how I can't keep telling them and then, but I said, you cannot not get the lesson. I said, remember, life is going to throw stuff at you, but it's to teach you something. And if you don't get the lesson, life is a very good teacher. It will.
It'll it'll bring you right back. Yep, for
Yep.
sure.
Yep. And so they're like, okay, so it's something I'm supposed to learn through the situation. I'm like, yeah. And sometimes, and I said most times, it's about you.
100%. No matter what you're going through,
Mhm.
even the divorce, the infidelity, at least for myself,
Yep.
I had to do some deep dives in places that I didn't want to do that, look
Yeah.
at it,
Yeah.
and deal with it. Now, I know you said you didn't forgive your ex-wife at that time. Have you ever
Yeah.
offered forgiveness, or at least for you, so you're not carrying that weight, right? Forget about whatever she needs
Yeah.
to do. That's on her. But for
Yeah.
you, have you learned a little bit of that?
Oh, 100%. So I do it every day. Like every day, I like if I think about her and I want to start getting angry, I forgive her. But I didn't get to the point. We're not on good speaking terms,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
She'll call me when she needs something, right? But we haven't got to that point where I guess where I can tell her that I forgave you because I don't want to look like,
Yeah.
But I just did it to myself. Like I said it out loud to myself because I didn't want to harbor any anger or like resentment because it's gonna age you. And I'm not trying to get aged by someone else's, like pain that they tried to cause on me. No, I'm just let it go. And it's not easy. It's a maturation process. One day you feel great, the other day you feel kind of pissed off. And it's okay to go through those feelings, but forgiving someone is the acknowledgement that, hey, I've been hurt, that person hurt me and it hurt a lot, but that's not the end of me. And so I'm going to move forward
Yep.
in this, no matter how I feel now, because I know my feelings are temporary and my life has value and consequences far past how I feel today. So,
100%. And that's, I did that as well because, I've learned forgiveness is really for us, because,
yes,
you know, because if or what, when, she receives forgiveness, that's her. She doesn't have to receive it, right?
yeah,
And you could be like, man, I really forgive you. All right, whatever. And, same thing is if we've done something wrong, we can ask for forgiveness, but if we don't forgive ourselves, for the behaviors and things like that, it doesn't matter that everybody else we're an afterthought, right? It's all
yeah,
that's the one of the lessons in life is to, it's not always it's not always about us. It's
yeah.
for
Oh, say
us,
it
it's
again.
about us, and from our
Yeah,
perspective, man, oh, this is awesome. But the other person doesn't have to do it, and that's still okay. We have to be
yeah,
okay with that.
yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're when I say you're totally man, you're spot on. And And that's something that's a very difficult truth for a lot of people.
For sure.
When you say it's not about you and your pain is not about you, is like for me, all the stuff I went through became fruit for somebody else to eat. It wasn't for me. It was for anybody else that like look at my life and like, oh man, you went through this. How did you get through it? And I sit them down like, hey, well, here's all the stuff to get you through this. Hopefully they don't have to go through. They don't have to spend the years of all the pain I went through. They can get past that and move forward. So,
Yeah, no, exactly. But at some point we do still have to go through some of the pain
oh,
because
100%.
if not, we also then come in. That's why with your kids, as a father, you have to sort of let them skin their knee a little bit
Yeah.
because then they learn what not to do, right?
Yeah.
Touch the stove, not play on the stove, but
Yeah.
whoa, that didn't feel so good, did that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And not things like that serious, but
Yeah.
that's how you learn it, right? It's that forging
Hmm.
process that you were talking about when you're building that sword to get you through life.
Yeah.
Now
100%.
we're gonna start, getting towards the end of the episode, uh, and you've given us so much already. I
Yeah.
usually have all of my guests walk into the magic garden, and what I mean by that is let's plant one more seed, a
Yeah.
seed that might be like Jack and the Beanstalk. It'll grow right immediately. Like once you say it, you're like, whoa, that's okay. Or something
Mhm.
that you might give advice to that they could grow on and work on. What would be something that you would love to plant in our magic garden?
I would say to know that you're not alone and that you continue to move forward. And like you said, if we stay on just I would say the seed of forgiveness, like, hate is like, I heard like hate is a poison that you take every day, hoping that someone else is gonna die and go through it, right? And it's like that is so true. So I would say the seed of forgiveness is so powerful that when it grows and it maturates into something, it's almost like that mustard seed,
Yep,
that becomes this mighty tree. Forgiveness is a seed that you need to plant in your garden.
that's awesome. Yeah, and remember, well, I always say forgiveness sometimes has to start with us.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, once we can forgive ourselves, we're able to move on the outside. It all starts within ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Well,
You
thank
wrong.
well, thank you, sir, for your time, for your service again. Won't ever stop saying that. Thank you for all that you do.
Yeah.
And how can everybody get in touch with you if they want to connect with you and talk to you a little bit?
Oh, michaelyearby.com. My name, MichaelYearby.com. And that's how you get a hold of me.
All right. Well, we'll make sure that that's in the show notes. And thank you. Please be safe. May God protect you and really enjoy. Well, I one more question. So you
Yeah.
said you're towards the end of your career. What are you
Yeah.
looking to do next?
Um, maybe some podcasting or something like that nature. I'm not sure. I'm a big anime enthusiast, so I love anime.
Yep.
So something around that I can use my degree, what I learned about organizations about. So something probably I'm not sure how to connect those two worlds yet, but I'm trying to figure that out.
I have some ideas, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it afterward.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for this episode. It was awesome, and I wish you the best and all health and safety for you.
Thank you.
And everybody else, of course, I wish that as well for everybody. But
Yeah.
you have a little peace and love in your life. That is the foundation of our lives, hopefully. And if not, bring some more into your life. Double the peace and love. And when you bring a bat, remember, bring awesome thoughts like Sergeant Major
Mhm.
today. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.
You too. Peace.
I am really glad that you're enjoying the show, and I hope you follow us on all the podcast hosting sites, as well as Facebook, Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, or you can follow me, Uncle Dave, David Chemetsky, at Facebook, Instagram, Club, and www.davidchemetsky.com. I also would enjoy for you to contact me if you want to just have some feedback. You need somebody to talk to at peacelovebringabat@gmail.com. Love to hear your feedback. Thanks. Well, my friends, today's journey has come to a close. I hope the seeds of peace and love continue to grow for each one of you. Remember, the peace and love surround you that will assist you to rise again. And don't forget to bring a bat for what you believe in. Namaste.